the best ways for hexagons out there to have the most utility and like really just be able to make the most out of their talents for the community?
It's a great question. First, I would say get out of the echo chamber, because a lot of us many hexagons, many pulsicans, it's important to be in there for a little bit, I think, because it compels those who are listening to listen and to ingest that information, to learn what's good about Hex, to learn what's good potentially about Pulse and PulseX, etc. After you've become that, after that is ingrained in you and you've thought about it, you're not just repeating what you hear, but you hear something and then you think about it and you ponder on that and you philosophize on that and you spend time with it and you understand it and you internalize it. Get out of the echo chamber and get out into the world and share that with people one-on-one, which is what I do. I felt like, thank you for mentioning those videos. I initially started that maybe a month and a half ago or so, after being off of social media entirely for years, almost half a decade, maybe just a post here and there, but I hadn't fooled with it at all because I really don't know much about marketing, or I don't know much about social media. But I started making those videos, the motivational ones, initially just for two reasons. I wanted to know how to make a video because I hadn't, I've always been the performer in the video, but I've never actually made one. So I got to do that. So I started making those to learn how to do it. And this is to your point, I'm getting to it. And then the second reason I started doing those was I realized early on that doing those was food for me. I needed that motivation myself. So getting up, getting in a good mood and turning on the camera and just feeling good and just talking to the camera for a minute or two, or sometimes it's only 40 seconds, or even do it a couple of times, it feel good. I get worked up. I get excited about the day. Mm-hmm. So in doing that, I have learned how to make videos. And now you may or may not have noticed, while I'm continuing to do that, and I always will because I love it, I need that daily food, or that every other day, I need that food, that motivational food. I'm also making videos about Hex, or about PulseChain, or about wallets, or about just little aspects of crypto that I wish I could have seen back when I first started in January. So instead of watching an hour-long video on what MetaMask even is, not how to work it, but what it is, just a little snippet where a value-packed, information-packed snippet that really would take me a long way in regards to understanding the basic concepts of something like a MetaMask. I'm making those now. So I'm making lots of those. I'm making those about Hex. I'm making them about PulseChain. So, and the reason that I'm doing that is because, like you said, I want to add whatever value I can to the community. And there's still a lot about social media that I don't get, and I probably never will, and marketing, because that's just not where my skill sets are. And even though I know they're incredibly important, I'd rather get to a point where, I'd rather just do what I want to do. And that's the creative side. And I really, really do enjoy that. So in terms of adding value, what are your skill sets for those interested, or those watching the replay? What are your skill sets? What do you do? Are you good with numbers? Maybe you could work out spreadsheets and go through things the way that Top Gun does, or Sam Stolt, great dude. He's on with Jim Rat all the time. Love dude. Sam's amazing. Maybe you're good on camera, or maybe you're a good talker, or I don't want to say salesman because that term has a negative connotation, but maybe there's something about you that's interesting. Maybe there's a charisma there. And if that's the case, get on camera, talk about it, decide what a subject you want to talk about, get on camera and just talk about it, whether it's live streaming or whether it's making little videos. Maybe you're a musician. I wrote a silly song called the PulseChain song. There's lots of musicians in this community.
I haven't heard. I'm going to have to look that one up.
Oh, cool. Well, I can play it for you before it's over with. Yeah, it was like a month ago.
You're offering, yes, that is a definite yes on that. Yeah, just maybe before we end, then remind me. That'd be awesome.
I'll have to find the lyric because it's been a while since I've sang it. But I recorded it like a month ago. It was fun.
That's awesome.
But that's an example of just trying to find, and that really wasn't necessarily to provide education. That was just for the sake of entertainment. And there was a lot of negativity in the community at that time. And I thought, again, I had the C word again, believe it or not. And I just kind of wrote it and was like, that's really fun. I'm going to record it as soon as I'm well. And hopefully it'll lighten the spirits of the community. And it had that effect. Everybody really seemed to like it. It lightened the spirits a lot. And at least for a few days. And that was important to me. So whatever your skill set is and whatever your passions are, spend time thinking about how can I utilize those to spread the word, whether it's an educational word or an inspirational word or an entertaining word or visual art or something. How can I create or how can I contribute? And no one can give you that answer except you. Only you can figure out how you can contribute. And I would say, don't try to do something that you don't want to do because you won't stick with it.
Yeah. Well, if there's something, that's a interesting distinction too, we could bring up is something that you don't want to do because you don't enjoy it and something you don't want to do because you're uncomfortable doing it.
Word.
Public speaking, for example, getting on stream, writing, just like, creatively writing, starting a blog, all these things can help you get the HEX message out. The more that's why, so rhmax.org/blog, that's where most of my written content goes. If it's not on Twitter, it's on that blog. And if I'm not streaming about it, and sometimes there's, collaboration stuff like that too. But the more positive searches we have for HEX PulseChain, the more people who, I write a technical blog. Most of my blogs are technical. So the more people who, if I'm searching and I see, I'm not sure about HEX, I'm not sure about whatever, but I see there's people writing about it who seem intelligent. They don't seem like scammers. They seem like people who, know a little bit about blockchain. They know about these other, professional areas, and they're into it. That gives me more confidence that, hey, maybe there's something else to it. Maybe I need to dust off, I need to go a little bit deeper to understand why there's so many people who seem to be, good at all these other things. They're into this particular product.
That's right.
So that's where I hope to reach people with the blog too. And of course, our community. But with streaming, when you brought up that you think the clips and stuff help a lot too, I certainly agree. I think for me, I don't even think about, or haven't been prioritizing, I do it in subtle ways, haven't been prioritizing people outside of our community for the clips, because I know people inside the community, I know they'll get a lot of value out of it, or at least that's the idea. But I have been trying to even change the titles a little bit, or make it not specifically HEX or PulseChain in the title for a lot of clips, just so, especially, if we're talking about the Ethereum merge and stuff like that, I'll just name the clip, blah, blah, blah about Ethereum merge. And of course, during the conversation, we're going to be talking about HEX and the pairs and stuff on that.
Yep.
So that kind of subtle things where it's not clickbait. It's not being, malicious or anything. I'm just saying, like, here's about the Ethereum merge. But also, you're going to hear us talk about HEX during the conversation. Maybe that'll get you interested in things like that. And, it's not about taking it out of the title. It's about being opportunistic with how you reach your audience.
Well
and
stated.
that's like some of the little tricks and stuff that, I don't want to say tricks. Again, tricks have a negative connotation. It's like some of the ways I'm able to reach
marketing
audiences.
techniques.
Yeah. And I'm like the anti-marketing. That's one thing that Richard really opened my eyes up about. Two is, coming from an engineering type background, engineers search for truth. Marketing is like the antithesis of engineering. Like, that's why those two groups, they do not get along. Engineering always hates marketing. Marketing hates engineering. They never see eye to eye because two completely different mindsets. Like, engineers want truth. They don't want fluff. They want to know exactly how it works, all the caveats, all the stuff like that. Marketing, for the most part, doesn't really care as much how it works. How can I sell it? How can I get the message out? And I'm not saying it in a bad way. That's a good thing. Like, without marketing departments, you can't sell the product. Without a product, you have nothing to sell. So you need both. So but for me, coming from that background, it's like, I always thought, no, I'm looking for the truth. Like, I don't, Richard, he does all these things and he, exaggerates and, just only talks about the positive things about the product, all this stuff. And for a while, I was like, man, that's, I kind of had to turn that side off of me to really get the message of what he was talking about. And then eventually I realized it doesn't matter. Like all this stuff doesn't matter. The story, and this is blasphemous coming from an engineering type background, the story is more important than the truth a lot of times. And just because it's a story that doesn't happen to line up with every single fact here and there, that's irrelevant. Like the narrative is powerful. It's what draws people in. Most people don't care about the exact truth of every little single thing. They want to know how it's useful to them. So you got to make it palatable for them to consume. But that's just, I think that turns a lot of people off that come from those backgrounds who can't quite get over the way he talks about things. Because he's not, I mean, he'll even now he'll talk about something. I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of caveats with that, or that's a way oversimplification, blah, blah, blah. He's not there to tell you, he's not there to do this technical deep dive with you. He's there to tell you how it's going to change your life. And at the end of the day, that's what's most important. And that's what I learned.
He's there to push the narrative.
The narrative, and push it in a way that it's less propaganda and more, what does it mean to you? Because
great statement. Yeah, man.
If you want people to follow you, you have to make it explicit and implicit of why should they do it? Why should they put their time into you over anyone else? And you want eyes to glaze over? Start talking about all the technical details.
Word.
You want people to hit the sub button? You want people to watch every live stream you ever have? Tell them how you're going to change their life. And that's what Richard's done.
Now and then, though, on that note, you have to insert a little bit of technical detail so that those watching know that you know what you're talking about.
Definitely. And that's what I like to see. But I try.
I like to see that too. I like to see that too.
You know, just enough of it. And HEX doesn't have a white paper, right? It's just there's a website and all this stuff. It doesn't really have a white paper with the way we traditionally think about white papers.
Right.
But if you go and you search on YouTube and you find all these technical explanations, you go watch Wells Only and hear him talk about how a T-share works and all this stuff.
I did that often in the early days.
That's the white paper. You don't need a PDF to sell this product. You go watch a few hours of streaming. You're going to be like, whoa, nobody else is doing this.
Yeah. Watch some smart people talk about it. That's one of the things. That's another, maybe I left that part out earlier. That captured me in regards to Richard early also, because I would watch some debates or just some regular conversations he'd be having with people and would talk about the failings or the weak points, if you want to call it that, of say Bitcoin. And he'd get really technical for 10 seconds, and then he'd go back to a narrative driven discussion. But those little snippets of extreme technicality that would leave whoever he was debating or talking to speechless, that was a lot of validation, for me early on, because I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about, but I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he knows what he's talking about, and he knows what he's talking about better than the guy that he's talking to, better than anyone, I would imagine. That was really instrumental for me early on.